All attempts to destroy democracy by terrorism will fail.
More on our top story right now. Former Prime Minister to Great Britain, Margaret Thatcher, is dead at the age of 87.
But more on her legacy, specifically her economic impact on the UK and the world, Stuart Varney. Stuart, your thoughts. You interviewed you when you had another network.
Okay. In the 1970s, Britain was a demoralized socialist economy. The government ran autos, airlines, steel, coal, power supply, electricity, water, heavy industry. The government was completely involved, and basically it was a socialist economy. Margaret Thatcher reversed that. She sold off these state-owned companies. She introduced the idea of competition and personal responsibility back into British life. So she not only saved Britain from a socialist economy, she reinvigorated the moral sense of what Britain is all about.
And I understand in the beginning things didn't go well. The unemployment shot up and people started to panic, and she held course.
Yes, because she cut, well, it's not that she cut spending, that's not the point. She held on to a very strong series of conservative ideas, which is cut taxes, reduce spending, and cut back the role of government. The initial response to that, because she was inheriting a socialist economy, was even more unemployment. And she was extremely unpopular for some time in the early days of her prime ministership. But that reversed as her private enterprise initiatives kicked in and the economy started to expand, and Britain was literally revitalized.
And you were talking, you know, she took power in 1979.
She did.
The United States, the world economy was in the dumper for the most part. What's interesting is when you came into the studio, Stuart, you said that had Margaret Thatcher, had she taken office 10 years earlier, what would have happened?
I might not have left Britain. I left Britain permanently late 72, very early 1973. Britain at that time was in the absolute doldrums. I didn't see any prospects for myself to get up in the world, you know, fight my way up the food chain. I just didn't see a real opportunity in Britain at that time. I came to America in the mid-1970s, and although the economy was not doing great here, it wasn't that good here, but I could see opportunity. I could see scope. In many ways, it was because America is not a class-based society, and Britain was. Margaret Thatcher reversed that class-based society. She made it a much more open and competitive society. You got ahead by your brains, talent, drive, and ability, just like you do in America. She made Britain a lot like America was and used to be.
Right, and you also said that you had interviewed her at one point in time, and what was so refreshing about interviewing her as a politician was that she wasn't really like a politician.
No, she was not. If you look at a modern politician, whether it's a Brit or an American, you ask a question as an interviewer, and what you get is an answer to a question which they wanted you to ask in the first place. Talking points. Margaret Thatcher was completely different. And you asked her a question, she answered it dead on, straight up.
Sorry to interrupt you, but we're looking at these images of the former Prime Minister and the President of the United States there in the White House back in the 80s. They were such a team. They made conservatism cool back then.
I'm nostalgic. I mean, those two ran the world.
They did.
And changed it.
They turned it around.
Extraordinary.
Did she early on saw a problem with the EU, right? She didn't think that it was going to work, and she wanted to keep Britain out of it, and turns out she was right.
Yep. She wouldn't have any part in Britain being a part of the Eurozone. The British were already a part of the European Union. She didn't like it. She didn't like the loss of sovereignty. She didn't want Britain to be ruled by laws and regulations which were based on the continent of Europe and not from the British people.
And now we're seeing all the fallout with all these other countries that did decide to do that.
She was right.
They can't print their own money, etc.
You know,
it's a big story when he comes out without his manila folder.
I know.
He knows it, he lived it, and that's why we're getting your instant analysis of Margaret Thatcher, who has just passed away.
Can I just give her the quote which will live forever from Margaret Thatcher? The trouble with socialism is that sooner or later you run out of other people's money. Oh, how true that is. Today and yesterday, it's true.
Other people's money. All right, Stuart Varney, thank you very much for joining us on this day. Margaret Thatcher dead at 87. Right back.